Hello, everybody. My name is Graham Elwood, and you are watching the BAM Political Vigilante. Man, the Epstein story just gets crazier and crazier. And what always happens whenever there's a big story, what's happening, what Israel, this nonstop bombing of Gaza is a real story. This isn't like a made up hype story or a false flag or whatever. And I've said this before. Sometimes there's just stuff that's made up and then they sneak some Epstein story through it. Or sometimes there's something legitimately going on. Like last May when the Supreme Court leak came out that on May 3rd or whatever it was that they were going to overturn Roe v. Wade, which is a legitimate thing to be concerned with. That was the same day that Ghislaine Maxwell got moved from a maximum security prison in New York to a minimum security prison in Florida, and there was no coverage of it at all. So my understanding, Israel just bombed a hospital in Gaza, which is awful. That's a war crime, and that's a legitimate thing. But then this just came out. This seems kind of significant to the Epstein story. Jeffrey Epstein survivor who testified against Ghislaine Maxwell dies in West Palm Beach. Oh, that's weird. This just came out today at 11 in the morning, 8 a.m. East or West Coast time. One of Jeffrey Epstein's victims who testified against Ghislaine Maxwell in her trial for sex trafficking minors has died of an accidental overdose. So let's just start real quick. First of all, the media will never mention that Ghislaine Maxwell is also a pedophile. She participated in the raping of these young girls, children, minors, and she's a pedophile. Was not even allowed to be said in the case, right? So right out of the gate, we're already in the minimizing Ghislaine Maxwell's role. She participated, so she is a pedophile and a rapist and a sex trafficker. So let's just out of the gate, we're already when she's like Epstein's gal pal and whatever, then she just sounds like, oh, they had a crazy relationship. Oh, they were just sex trafficking pedophile monsters. Let's get back into the story. She testified in 2021 that she had been addicted to pain pills and cocaine. Oh, so this is Caroline Anderson, 36, died May 23rd of an overdose of methadone, fentanyl, and alprazolam in West Palm Beach hotel room, said Mike Jackal, spokesperson for the West Palm Beach Police Department. She testified in 2021 that she had been addicted to pain pills and cocaine and that she had taken them to block out Epstein's sexual abuse. For 4 years, Epstein had abused her at his Palm Beach mansion starting in 2001 when she was 14. Adriano lived in Wellington at the time of her death and leaves behind her husband, John, and her 5 children, 3 of them under 10, and her mother, Dorothy Groner. So let's break that down for a second. Is it highly plausible that this woman or anyone who had to survive the horrors of being abused at the age of 14 when you're a child by Epstein and Maxwell and who knows what other monsters came rolling through there? Is it very plausible that she had a drug addiction and did overdose in a hotel room because the memories were too bad? Absolutely. That is plausible. That is not a crazy leap in logic. That's why they're called, people who go through that are called survivors, because any sort of childhood sexual trauma makes people want to abuse drugs and alcohol and not want to live and numb out. The more severe the abuse, like if it's sustained and you were trafficked, and the more the drug addiction can happen. And you really want to numb out with anything. Some people numb out drugs, alcohol, food. Some people are, hundreds of pounds overweight. Some people are bulimic, anorexic. Some people are addicted to video games or porn or anything to numb out. So is that realistic to believe that this could be a true story, that this happened? Sure. But they want us to just believe, oh, this is too bad and nothing else. Because what else does this woman know? Going back to the Maxwell trial that was in 2021, remember when I covered this story, how Maxwell, there was only 4 women testifying against Maxwell? Remember how odd that was? Only 4 women testified? When in the Larry Nassar case, that was that NCAA doctor that molested all of those female gymnasts, they literally brought in something like, I forget the actual number, but like 160 women came forward to testify, and there was only 4 women testifying in the Maxwell case. Isn't that odd? So one of the things we have to ask, and we may never know now, who else, what other powerful men or women were brought in to abuse this woman when she was 14? We know Bill Clinton flew on Epstein's plane 26 times. We know Hillary Clinton flew on 2 times. We know Bill and Hillary were at Epstein's compound in New Mexico numerous times. We know Ghislaine Maxwell was at Chelsea Clinton's wedding in 2011, 2 years after Maxwell had already settled out of court with some of accusers, and Epstein had already done jail time in 2009 in Florida. We know several women were trafficked out of Mar-a-Lago. We know Donald Trump was on Epstein's plane 5 times. So this seems very just like convenient that this woman just passes away. And again, the news is dominated with Israel and Palestine. And again, that is a legitimate big story, but the media can't cover more than one thing, right? Adriana was the second Epstein survivor known to suffer a fatal overdose in Palm Beach County. Lee Sky Patrick died at age 29 in 2017. She too was found in a West Palm Beach hotel room. Patrick's twin sister blamed her struggles with drugs on Epstein. She suffered tremendously, and it started with Epstein. Shelley Patrick told the Daily Mail in 2019. She struggled with addiction since the time she met that guy. Again, totally plausible, but we should at least ask the question of both of these women. And sure, drug addicts overdose, and we have a fentanyl crisis going on in this country, but you should at least, just any detective would go, well, if this woman had information, if either one of these women had information, it would be easy to get into their hotel room, shoot them up full of drugs and kill them, and everyone would just go, this drug addict OD'd, and no one would ask questions, right? The Palm Beach Post sued in 2019 to reveal grand jury transcripts after its investigation revealed that the first ever prosecutor considered charges against Epstein discredited the only victim to testify during the 2006 proceedings. What emerged was only one solicitation of prostitution charge, which reflected neither the victim's age nor the fact that police had found multiple victims. Again, more evidence of prosecutors covering up victims and evidence. The Palm Beach County State Attorney Barry Kreischer could have stopped Epstein in 2006. Instead, Epstein pleaded guilty to the solicitation charge plus solicitation of a minor in 2008 and served 13 months in the Palm Beach County Jail in the deal of the century. And we know Acosta helped with this deal. We know Acosta said that he was told to go easy on Epstein because he was a CIA asset. Those are Acosta's words. And then Trump put Acosta in his cabinet. Those are all facts. Epstein was charged with the sex trafficking of minors by New York federal prosecutors in July of 2019. In less than a month, he was found dead, hanging in his Manhattan jail cell. Isn't it weird? Everybody keeps dying. It's so weird. One woman dies in 2017. Epstein dies in 2019. Now this other woman just died today in 2023. Maxwell has been moved to a minimum security prison. There is no videotape of her getting moved. There's no mugshot from this woman. It's insane. It is insane to me. And people just keep passing away. And every time somebody passes away or someone is convicted or they move to it always happens when there's some big story dominating the news. Roe v. Wade is going away. Oh, we're going to move Ghislaine Maxwell to Israel and Gaza are fighting. Oh, this woman just happened to OD. Really? And nobody asks any questions. Palm Beach County Circuit Court Judge Luis Delgado is reviewing the grand jury transcripts for release in furtherance of justice after the 4th District Court of Appeal directed him to do so in May. The post lawsuit was based in part on the Florida law, which says grand jury materials can be released in furtherance of justice. Delgado has had the transcripts since June. Well, this could be big, these getting revealed. Jeffrey Epstein survivor Carolyn Andriano had bought a house in North Carolina. West Palm Beach police investigation into Andriano's death at the DoubleTree by Hilton in West Palm Beach should be concluded anytime, Jackal said. He said he expects her death will be ruled accidental. Adriano and Pitts had bought a home for $570,000 in North Carolina a month before she died. Pitts is involved in a legal battle with Gronert over Adriano's estate. Her will, naming her mother and 2 oldest children as beneficiaries, was signed in 2010 before she married Pitts and had 3 children with him. Adriano had $183,000 in savings account when she died, court papers show. Payments from JP Morgan and Deutsche Bank settlements are expected. This keeps getting more curious. I mean, I can't begin to get inside the mind of someone who is struggling with an addiction and who was abused repeatedly as a teenager, as a child. But you have to ask the question. She's got money. She thinks she bought a house. She's got a family. It doesn't mean, she had so much to live for, because somebody's mental state, especially if they suffered from childhood trauma, everything can be going right in your life. And you still just have a moment where you're like, I want this pain to go away. These memories of being abused as a kid are too overwhelming. I don't want to live anymore. I totally can understand and relate to that personally. On a personal level, I can relate to that. But we should at least be asking these questions. Because what's involved is the single greatest sex trafficking ring in the history of the human race that we know of. There might be bigger ones, Catholic Church, but at least this one there's all of this concrete evidence. When I had former child crimes investigator Eric Oldenburg, who honorably retired from the Phoenix Police Department after 24 years of service. He was a child crimes investigator. We've had him on the show numerous times. I always asked him, I said, remember, if you go back and watch that, it's in the Epstein playlist. I said, if you were the lead investigator on this, what would you be doing? He goes, Graham, we would be indicting people for 10 to 20 years. This would keep going on and on and on. But now we keep getting these stories that just want to hush it up. Andriano testified to a troubled past in Maxwell's trial, said she knew of Prince Andrew incident. After Maxwell was convicted and sentenced to 20 years in prison, Adriano told the Daily Mail that she had a troubled past and a chaotic life when she first visited Epstein. She had said she had been sexually abused when she was 4. Many of Epstein's victims have been sexually abused previously, and their families struggled financially. So that's why that's consistent. And this is, again, something that former child crimes investigator Eric Oldenburg told me is, he goes, you show me 100 kids that have been abused, 99 of them will have come from some sort of troubled home or had other types of abuse, right? So they had already been abused. And when you get abused at a young age, like 4, you're basically what's told is you lose your no. You have your no taken away. That's such a young age to be abused. You were 4. You didn't know enough. Your brain wasn't developed enough to go, hey, get your hands off me. Don't touch me. Don't do that. An adult manipulated you and said, this is okay or whatever. Even if your body and your mind and your soul are telling you this is wrong and awful, because an adult's perpetrating it to you, the child's brain says, I must be wrong. This must be my fault. Adults are supposed to take care of me. Adults are supposed to protect me. So if adults are doing this to me, this must mean I'm wrong. I'm giving you very broad strokes of clinical psychology. I'm not a clinical psychologist, but I've had to study this due to personal experience. So this is why people are targeted. And if they were abused at an early age and then they don't know how to say no, and then predators can sense this. It's why Jerry Sandusky had this like underprivileged kid foundation, because he knew underprivileged kids probably don't come from a 2-parent home, and you can easily manipulate them, give them gifts, and they'll take the abuse. Because a kid growing up in a nice 2-parent home where the parents are involved in the child's life is going to come home and go, hey, this football coach, gave me a new bike. They're going to go, who did? Wait, what? And they're going to go, who is this guy? They're going to invent, what is going on? If there's no parents paying attention, then the kid can be abused easily. One parent's gone, the other parent's working all the time. A juror said in an ITV documentary that Adriano's testimony had been crucial in convicting Maxwell, who said she arranged and participated in the abusive episodes at Epstein's Palm Beach mansion. Again, a victim, a survivor said Maxwell participated in the abuse, but I have not found personally, maybe it's out there, but I have not found any mainstream media outlet calling Ghislaine Maxwell what she really is, which is a pedophile. Ghislaine Maxwell is a pedophile. Say it with me. She's a pedophile. She's a pedophile. She raped children. She's a pedophile. Yay, equality. Women are pedophiles too. Carolyn, her testimony was the most gripping, and I felt the most compassion for her because she had literally had one of the hardest life stories, said the juror. After the trial, Adriano revealed her identity and said the girl who had recruited her, Virginia Giuffre, then Roberts, told her about being sexually abused by Prince Andrew at the time it happened. Maxwell is currently serving her time in a Tallahassee prison, minimum security prison. Oh, they just happened to leave that out. There's Maxwell with Prince Andrew. Gee, who took that picture? Maybe it was Jeffrey Epstein. Virginia Giuffre just put this out. Adriano said she went to Epstein's mansion about 100 times, 3 or 4 times a week. I'm not ashamed of being a victim of Jeffrey Epstein and Maxwell, she told the Daily Mail. For other girls that have been victimized, I want them to know that it is okay to come out and tell somebody, even if you don't want to be identified, and the sooner, the better. Even if this woman did decide to take her, she willfully took her own life by willfully overdosing on drugs. She went to Epstein's 3 or 4 times a week, over 100 times. There's no way that none of those men or women that abused her, none of them were powerful. We know that's not true. We know that's the majority of the people that came through Epstein's mansion or his island or his compound in New Mexico were powerful people. You have to ask, there's no way. So that means, where is the evidence? Was she allowed to release these names? I mean, we talked about the Maxwell trial. The judge in the Maxwell trial was a member of Quill and Dagger, right? Quill and Dagger was literally the sister organization of the Skull and Bones at Yale. Skull and Bones is for men. Quill and Dagger is for women. There's a secret society. George W. Bush was Skull and Bones. John Kerry was Skull and Bones. And the judge, Allison Hale, I believe I'm blanking on her name, but she was a member of she's the one who didn't allow certain evidence. She's the one who limited the number of victims that could testify. And she's the one who limited the maximum number of years that Maxwell could be sentenced to 20 years. She did that. She limited to 20 years. I think that was when the first SCOTUS leak came out May 3rd. And then in June, when it was revealed that SCOTUS was going to get rid of Roe v. Wade, that's when Maxwell moved to the minimum security prison. Now I remember that timeline correctly. Isn't that weird? And now this woman just ODs in a hotel room. Let us not forget my interview with CIA whistleblower John Kiriakou when Epstein was killed, what his first impressions as an ex-CIA agent, and he called a friend of his who's still with the CIA. These are John Kiriakou's words, not mine. What his first impression and his friends at the CIA's first impression were. We're going to show you this right here, right now.
If you're just tuning in, it's the Political Vigilante. I'm here with John Kiriakou, ex-CIA agent. I want to talk now. I've covered the Epstein case. Yeah. And there's obviously, I've talked to several people who say there's clearly ties with Mossad, with the CIA, and this global sex trafficking ring of like, I don't know, ruling elites. It sounds pretty horrifying and spreads pretty wide. Your experience with the CIA, what do you think of this? I mean, first of all, I don't think he killed himself at all. I think either somebody killed him, one of the powerful people that's in his black book, or the CIA extracted him. I don't know. What do you think?
The day that he died, a friend of mine at the CIA called me and he said, "This has to be the Israelis, right?" And I said, that was the first thing that came to my mind. This has to be the Israelis. I'll give the Israelis credit. They are really, really.
Ex-CIA agent, this has to be the Israelis. That's John Kiriakou's first thought when Epstein was killed, right? So now that we hear that this woman that testified, Carolyn Adriano, died in her hotel room yesterday or last night or this morning or whatever, you don't think anyone else would want to get to her? Maybe she OD'd because she had a very, very traumatic childhood. Follow the money, connect the dots, get the truth, folks. Support our show any way you can. The scroll is below. And shave your knuckles for justice. Boom.